Myles Garrett is the new single-season sack leader in the NFL. Now, with the regular season ending for the NFL, the head coaching cycle starts with some crazy fires and controversy. Draymond Green back to doing Draymond Green things and his arguing with referees and officials and coaches and players. And Holly Holm makes her return to boxing. Coming up next.
Ladies and gentlemen,
MackTruck, a.k.a. your worst nightmare. MackTruck, a.k.a. your worst nightmare. MackTruck, a.k.a. your worst nightmare. MackTruck.
What's good, y'all? You're locked in to the MackTruck podcast. I'm Mac, breaking down women's sports, NBA, WNBA, collegiate sports, NFL, combat sports, and the MLB, and all the stories beyond the headlines. Facts first, real takes, no media filter. Say it with your chest. Let's go. Welcome back. It's a Thursday, January 8th. My birthday was 2 days ago. Feeling fine at 34. Chapter 34 is about to be the best. We out here with y'all today. As you heard in the beginning, in the intro, we got a lot to talk about. Starting with Myles Garrett is a new NFL sack leader for a single season. He sacked Joe Burrow in the fourth quarter, reaching sack number 23 on the season in this past weekend game. The previous record, obviously, if y'all pay attention to the game, watch the game, listen to the game, all the things, the last sack record was set by Pro Hall of Famer Michael Strahan in 2001, and the Pittsburgh Steelers' great linebacker that is TJ Watt matched it in 2021. Now, we're rolling in to the other topic in terms of this NFL portion of the MackTruck podcast. And again, I thank you guys for joining me today. We got a lot to talk about, lots of details, all the things. Listen, obviously, with the regular season of the NFL coming to a close, it's now time for staffs and GMs and all the things to be reevaluating who they want to lead their teams in terms of head coaching positions, coordinator positions. And when we were writing our notes for this last radio edit, we had 3 huge names. Now our list is up to about 6 or 7, and that's not even including more that have come out today. Starting on top, the Browns fired Kevin Stefanski. Okay, Stefanski, as you guys know, was the Cleveland Browns head coach. Kevin Stefanski, in his 4 seasons as a head coach, had 13 different quarterbacks, all having a less than par quarterback rating, stat rating, or whatever you want to call that. The last 13 quarterbacks, they've all averaged about 41.5 QBR, which is 30th place, yards per attempt, 6.5, which is 29th place, and completion percentage, which is 60% for 31st place in the NFL. Also, closing out the 2025 regular season after switching quarterbacks from Joey Flacco, who got traded to the Bengals before Joe Burrow came back off of his turf toe grade 3 surgery. Had Joey Flacco, had Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Mind you, they also had Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson still on that roster as well, obviously with Shedeur Sanders remaining the starting quarterback for the remainder of the regular season. Ended the 2025 season with a 5-12 record, which brought the Browns to its second straight last place season in the AFC North Division and 4th losing season in 4 seasons as Kevin Stefanski was the head coach. Now, and I think if people remember the way we were kind of looking at Stefanski before, like, oh, he's supposed to be the Browns savior in terms of everything. I mean, and he had to deal with what now seems like twice over controversy with Deshaun Watson, him getting hurt 2 different times, him, and these scandals in terms of payoffs with massage therapists and all the weird, strange things. But that doesn't negate the fact that you have to produce as a coach. You did not do that. So you got to hit the burning turmoil. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, personally, I think Kevin Stefanski would make a great coach for another type of team. I just don't know if the Browns organization is that anymore. And obviously, their GM and front office also had a similar sentiment. So Kevin Stefanski is out over in Cleveland. The next big one, which really kind of shocked me, the Raiders fire Pete Carroll after 1 year. The Raiders will also retain John Spytek, who was also hired with Pete Carroll last year. After losing 10 straight games, they secure the number one spot in the NFL 2026 draft. Tom Brady and John Spytek will continue to run the football operations. Carroll finished 3-14 this season. Pete Carroll replaced what was interim and then ended up being head coach in Antonio Pierce after the 24-25 season. And the Vegas Raiders are also in line to possibly get a second first-round pick in terms of later first round. I mean, and right now it's projected that Fernando Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner out of the University of Indiana, will end up going to the Vegas Raiders. And listening to, obviously the coveted sports media coverage, looking at all the other ways we get our sports media, whether it's social media, TV, radio, all those things, that the Raiders may not be the best choice for Fernando Mendoza, but it's also about what team needs what and when. The Raiders are in a rebuilding phase. They got Ashton Jeanty last year in the first round of the NFL draft for 2025. And I think he needs a different quarterback. Personally, as a former player, fan, just watching the eye test, listening to, all the former NFL players, analysts, things like that, it just seems like the Raiders have been a couple pieces away from turning some of these losing seasons into memorable seasons, into 500 seasons, things like that. So, and here's a wild take, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, and you can agree with me or not. It's just a wild take. This is why we do hot takes. It's facts first, hot takes, no media filter over here on the Truck Pod, okay? Listen, what if Tom Brady becomes a head coach? Do you know how ridiculously awesome that would be, seeing TB12 as the head coach for the Vegas Raiders? But I don't know if he would have to give up his minority ownership to do that. I don't even know. Has that ever been a thing in the NFL? A minority owner being the head coach? I just think that'd be so cool. Either way, moving on into some more here, the Falcons have also let go former head coach Raheem Morris and GM Terry Fontenot. Falcons have gone 8-9 in both of the last seasons of the stint of Raheem Morris in Atlanta. Terry Fontenot, did not produce a winning season in the last 5 seasons of him being the GM for the Falcons. Arthur Blank has started making more decisions, started cleaning out house, and see if we can, try to start this cycle of resurgence of the Atlanta Falcons legacy back to the NFL. Falcons have now missed the playoffs every season since 2017, which is the second longest drought in the NFL, obviously next to the New York Jets. The search for both a GM and head coach for the Atlanta Falcons will happen congruently, which means at the exact same time, more of the coaching and coordinator dismissals and firings, if you will. And this happened actually on January 6th, on my birthday, 2 days ago, on Tuesday. And again, I never clamor or get excited for somebody to lose their job. That's just not me. However, as a fan, I'm very glad that Matt Eberflus, the former defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, has been let go. He gave up 30-plus points every game this season for almost its entirety, which is obviously last place. Passing yards per game was 251.5 and 377 yards altogether for dead last and 30th place. Now, Jerry Jones went on a record and said that he wanted to end his ownership as the GM with the most Super Bowls. He currently has 3. Robert Kraft has 7. Jerry Jones has a long way to go. And a lot of people this season, including Dallas fans, but if you know Dallas fans, you know how delusional they are. You know how illogical they are. Every year is our year. And that's just not the reality. The reality is, and I think a lot of people can agree with the same sentiment with me. Nothing drastic is going to change for the Dallas Cowboys until Jerry Jones relinquishes every aspect of the game, except being the general manager and president and CEO, along with Stephen Jones. You cannot have your hand in the field operations as well as the front office operations and expect something good to happen. You have had, the exact same pedigree. You've had the exact same formula since the 1990s. The last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl, I was 5 years old. 96. I just turned 4, rather. Deion Sanders was still on the team. Deion Sanders was still playing baseball in the MLB. Okay. Like, let's just keep that in mind. Troy Aikman was still throwing the ball. Okay. Like, what? Like, you got to be kidding me. Either way, fact of the matter is nothing drastic is going to change or be fixed for the Dallas Cowboys franchise until Jerry Jones starts to continue to relinquish all the reins. You don't retain Mike McCarthy. Okay, we can understand that. And you insert Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer, I think this season has gotten almost, I say, a B+ because of what he was able to do and how he was able to get his team and his players to flip this season around. There was a lot of close games this season that the Dallas Cowboys could have won if it weren't for, somebody dropping a pass or CeeDee Lamb dropping 5 passes in one game. Not having a defensive front. Then we trade some people and end up getting, so we trade obviously the Micah Parsons, that big deal, traded Micah Parsons for a first-round pick and Kenny Clark. Then we get a trade with the Jets attaining Quentin Williams, which I think was the best thing to happen. I don't know why we couldn't get this done in the offseason, but the fact that we were able to get it done just about midseason before the trade deadline ended and was able to insert Quentin Williams, and he made an instant impact with a Solomon Thomas, with a Logan Wilson, who we also got through that trade, with a Odigizua, with a Donovan Ezeraku, okay? The defensive front started to look like a defensive front, and it was quite interesting to watch. Either way, moving on, 2 more came out of the NFL headlines via Adam Schefter, via Ian Rappaport, via whoever you watch on some of these engines. This one also makes 0 sense to me from a fan perspective, but from a player businesswoman perspective, I completely understand it. John Harbaugh gets let go from the Baltimore Ravens after 18 seasons as the Baltimore Ravens head coach. John Harbaugh, obviously, everybody knows his younger brother, Jim Harbaugh, is the head coach for the LA Chargers. John Harbaugh led the Baltimore Ravens to a Super Bowl title, obviously, in 2012, and with 6 AFC North titles, with 193 victories, including 13 postseason wins. Baltimore finished this 2025 season just under 500 at 8-9, with a 3-time losing record under Harbaugh, and he's also still the franchise most winningest head coach. Now, obviously, again, if you guys have been watching the game, you've been watching the sport, you listen to the game. If the Ravens are your team, the Ravens have not looked like the Ravens of normal. Derrick Henry's efficiency was down, obviously, because number 8 has been hurt most of the season. Obviously tried to play it off. And then obviously, again, if you've played sports, you know that the best ability is availability. You have to be available to play the game. You have to be available to get the yards. You have to be available to lead your team to a win. Unfortunately, injuries hinder that. It's just a thing. I hate it, but it's a thing. I mean, sometimes, obviously, those types of things aren't something we can control. Okay. But I mean, I'm just going to say it. Sometimes injuries are not something that you can control. Sometimes you do everything in your power to prevent them. Sometimes they're lingering and we think we're doing what we can to prevent them or try to heal them, and stress and time and just constantly, practices and wear and tear attributes to those injuries. Also, trying to play through significant injuries does add on to the fact that you could get injured again and worse. So hopefully the Ravens will, start to try to figure out who their next head coach is going to be, what their next front office is going to look like. And, honestly, if Lamar Jackson is still going to be healthy enough to keep producing like he has. And the final one just for this NFL coaching cycle circuit so far, because obviously we still have the wild card round this week. We have playoffs and then into the Super Bowl. So a lot of these coaching topics are going to be here on the Truck Pod. Again, I thank you guys for joining us today. Last one here on the list: the Dolphins do let go of Coach Mike McDaniel this morning after a 7-10 season. The Dolphins started out losing 7 of the first 9 games of this quarter for the 2025 season. And they ended up actually rebounding again right around that week 15 mark, going into week 15 with a 4-game winning streak. Tua also has been injury prone, has been hurt. They ended up benching him for Quinn Ewers towards the end of the regular season. And again, Mike McDaniel, one of those younger coaches who had been able to come in and take a group of young guys like himself and turn them into a well-oiled machine. But then you lose Tyreek Hill at almost the very top of this season due to a dislocated knee, had to have surgery, all the things. Tua, who has been kind of going years on what seems like an extended concussion protocol until he, had to learn how to fall, how to take a hit, how to, keep his head up, all those things. So all those things add up. A lot of those multiple seasons of, just barely making the wild card and losing or completely missing it, just like the end of this 2025 season for them. So hopefully some of these coaches that have been on the hot seat and that essentially did get chopped will find their way back to the coaching cycle in some way, shape, or form, whether it's assistant coach, whether another team picks them up as a head coach. We will not know for now, but we'll know, I'm sure, in the probably distant future. But either way, let's run it. Different topic, same energy. Let's go. The NBA season, y'all, has been something else. Let me tell you. And when I say something else, I mean the fact that Draymond Green is still out here getting ejected from games. And I say this with a giant sigh because outside of the fact that I'm a diehard Golden State fan, I have been since I was little. I'm not a bandwagoner. I'm not none of that. My favorite player of all time in terms of Warrior status is Baron Davis. Okay. So I don't want to hear it. Either way, at what point does Draymond Green just stop talking? What point does Draymond Green just play the game? Because when you play the game, my guy, you're a force to be reckoned with. But adding all the extra stuff is not needed. Now, I will say this, and this only. When you have somebody in the paint for longer than 3 seconds, as he did, he made a valid argument. If you know basketball, you know the rules. You, as a post player, when you have the ball, you cannot be in the lane for more than 3 seconds. You have to dribble, either make a shot attempt or pass it back out and move around. That is literally the rules of basketball. Lane violations are a thing. Now, obviously referees aren't perfect. They're not going to get every call. But I feel like it was literally blatant enough. It was a 5-second. He was in the lane for 5 seconds. Kyle Filipowski was in the lane for 5 seconds as they were playing the Utah Jazz. Okay. And then Draymond Green gets a technical for yelling out at the ref under the hood. Then he tries to make an argument, tries to, get the other line judge to, reason with him, talk to him, and he ejects it from the game. I think that was a little much. I will say that I think them ejecting Draymond was a little much. But again, at what point do you just step back and realize, like, I'm getting known for this. I'm becoming known for this. Like, don't turn into Dylan Brooks. Don't turn into a Pat Bev. For the love of God, don't do none of that, because you're a 3-time champion, 4-time champion, you're an Olympic gold medalist. Like, you're a force to be reckoned with on a team that was built through draft picks. Like, why are we out here doing the most? Like, and even up this time last year, you were still out here kicking folk in the nuts. Like, what are we doing? Okay. It's just, is there Draymond Green fatigue? I think so. I mean, hell, me as a fan, I'm sitting here like, another headline with Draymond Green getting ejected. The other thing that's kind of shocking to this is Steve Kerr, head coach for the Golden State Warriors, is also getting a little bit edgy. He also got ejected from the Clippers game Monday night. The Warriors are 20-18. Steph Curry's averaging just under 29 points at 28.7. Draymond's averaging 6 rebounds, also 5.5 assists, and Jimmy Butler's averaging one and a half steals this season so far. Warriors are in that great awkward area, being in between 7th and 8th place in the Western Conference, being just about 11 to 12 games behind first place. And again, like kind of in just other basketball news, a lot of teams are starting to gun for OKC. And I kind of love it. OKC is the current champions. They have a well-oiled machine. Again, they're number one in the West with a 30-7 record, probably 32-7 record with a couple games here and there that I may have missed. The Lakers are also number 5 at 11-22, or 22-11 rather, or 24-11. Again, give or take a couple games. So it's just, it's crazy to me to sit here and think that like Draymond has been in the league for 16, 17, 18 seasons, and we're still doing stuff like this. Again, I completely understand frustrations, but bro, you're fucking Draymond Green. Like, you have a name in basketball. Like, whether it's for the crazy antics you do or the Dre Day pod, which, by the way, listen to it. If you need something else to listen to the Dre Day show. I'm just telling you that right now. But you as a player, as an influencer, you have done so much in your basketball career. Why go out in your career ending as the dude who does nothing but argue? Like, why do you want to do that? And maybe that is what you want to do. And if that's what you want to do, listen, my guy, go be you. Go be great. Keep being great. But maybe cool off just a hair. Just a hair, just to save your own self some stress, dude. Like, I feel like all that gray hair you got is because you out here trying to argue some of your valid points with the rest, but because of the stigma that you've now brought on yourself because of who you are and because of how you play and the positions you play, the referees aren't trying to hear it, which sucks because, like, okay, now we got this bias. Like, okay, like we can't make simple calls for lane violations when they're clearly there longer because I'm a defender and I'm defending the fact that he's in the lane. If I'm here longer than 3 seconds, he's definitely longer than 3 seconds with the ball. So I get it, but like I said, refs aren't gonna always get every call. Refs aren't always gonna be right. This is also what we have, video evidence for, replay assists, all of that. So either way, Golden State's still in a good position. I'd still love me some Draymond Green. I just think the amount of ejections and the amount of like time we spend talking about, him doing the same thing, it's like, just as a fan, it's getting a little bit out of hand, but also understood. And I will also say, I feel like personally, the officiating in the NBA is honestly starting to get as bad as the officiating in the WNBA, which is a whole completely other topic that we'll get into in the later episodes, later months, leading back into the Olympics, leading back into the end of the CBA, or what should be the end of the CBA, that type of thing with the WNBA. Now, new lane, same drive. Let's get it. For those of you combat sports fans, Holly Holm made her return to boxing. For those of you who don't know, Holly Holm, a.k.a. the preacher's daughter, started out boxing before she switched to MMA and kickboxing. Holly Holm is a Hall of Fame boxer, former world champion in 5 different weight classes. She's also the former women's bantamweight champion in the UFC. Again, like I said, she made her return to boxing after her stint in the UFC. She faced Stephanie Han for the WBA lightweight belts for the co-headliner of the Amanda Serrano&rsquo fight in San Juan, Puerto Rico this past weekend. This is Holly Holm's second boxing match since leaving the sport in 2013. Holly Holm, unfortunately, did lose to a technical decision, and it ended up going to the judges' scorecards due to a very deep cut on Stephanie Han's face. And since obviously the fight was just about over halfway through, as far as like how many rounds they went, judges scored it 68-65, 69-64, and 68-65 again in favor of Stephanie Han. Like I said, the fight was stopped at the minute 44 mark of round 7, again due to a cut on Stephanie Han's forehead caused by an accidental headbutt earlier on in the fight. And to be quite honest, for that being your second fight since 2013, since leaving the sport and making your move to the UFC and then essentially going back to your originated craft, and you went 7 rounds and it really should have ended up going the distance. I don't see how Holly Holm doesn't get another title shot. In fact, as we were kind of here in the producer studio, writing our notes, getting our information, all the things. And again, all the information that we get for the show. You can find on MMAJunkie.com in terms of this. You can find everything else on Bleacher Report, ESPN, Fox Sports, the normal sources of information gathering. Holly Holm has already set herself up for another title shot, guys. And it's going to happen soon. Where? We don't know. Who? We don't know. Talks are already happening, though. Holly Holm is box office. Holly Holm has been box office since she started boxing in the first damn place. She went from being box office and creating a solid career. I can't even say solid. Solid is slightly disrespectful on my part. A very well-known, highly touted boxing career, inserted herself into Boxing Hall of Fame, and takes that and carbon copies it into the realm of MMA, where she really got her get off after knocking out my favorite, Ronda Rousey, with a head kick. And after that significance in Holly Holm's MMA career, I had so much more respect for Holly Holm. I already had respect for her as a boxer. I now, after that fight, had respect for her across the board. And I'll tell you personally, I could not watch that fight for the longest. I could not go back and watch the replay because Ronda Rousey is the reason I started really getting back into combat sports and martial arts. It was because I was like, oh, she's about to be the first women's headliner on a fight. Her and Liz Carmouche. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, when was this ever going to be a thing? Because obviously, if you guys remember, Dana White's legendary comment, oh, women will never fight in the UFC. Ronda Rousey made it her mission. And every woman before that, with Holly Holm included in terms of just combat sports. Holly Holm was a boxer. She went to MMA. And before her, there was Gina Carano. Okay? There was Julia Kenzie. There was Ann Wolfe also in boxing. There was also, in my estimation, the all-time female GOAT for combat sports and martial arts. And I don't give a damn who you are. I will argue this point blue in the face. Lucia Riker, Lady Tyson. Okay? Lucia the Striker Riker. Legendary martial artist out of the Netherlands. She was kickboxing dudes for fun, bigger and the same weight class. Lucia Riker, Julia Kenzie, Gina Carano, Ann Wolfe, Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, all paved the way to what we see now for women's combat sports. And even now, and I'm going to go into a completely different weight class, the women's amateur heavyweight, the women's pro heavyweight. If it wasn't for those guys, Holly Holm included, you don't have aspiring fighters like me. You don't have aspiring fighters like Destiny Yarbrough. You don't have aspiring fighters like Brittany Spinks. You don't have a Gabby Garcia. You don't have people like that. You don't have a Cyborg. Cyborg is also on that list of pioneers and GOATs. You don't have that. So for Holly Holm to be able to start in one craft, hop to another, then go back to the craft, and then we've been seeing more female boxers do the same thing. Clarissa Shields did it. She started from boxing, went to MMA, had a short stint, and now is going back to boxing. I mean, obviously, Clarissa Shields' time in MMA wasn't what Holly Holm's was, but the fact that we have come so far with women's combat sports where women are starting with one craft, jumping to another, and going back is generationally unheard of. So big shout out to Holly Holm. Moving on into the headliner for this past fight card, Amanda Serrano versus Reina Tellez. Now, again, for those of you who've been paying attention, Reina Tellez stepped into this fight on 15 days' notice. She was supposed to fight, she being Amanda Serrano, rather, was supposed to fight Erica Cruz, but Erica Cruz, they ended up finding a discrepancy in her drug test, so they had to nix her and bring in Erica Tellez. Erica Tellez is now 13-1-1. Amanda Serrano was back on top at 48-4-1 with 30 knockouts. Again, Serrano retains her WBA and WBO featherweight titles. Unanimous decision, obviously, on Saturday. Like I said, judges scored that 97-93 times 2 and 98-92 by the third judge. Like I said, Reina Tellez took this fight on 15 days' notice. Any person who can step into a fight on less than a month's notice, I automatically have respect for, because you have to change your diet super fast. You have to change, you have to go from just training and maintaining to training to cut weight. Then you have to cut weight. Then you have to, get your blood work done. You have a lot of things to compile in 15 days And some of that stuff you had to get done within the day or the week that you accept the short notice fight. So big shout out and respect to Reina Tellez. And like I said, the fight was scheduled for, again, another 10 rounds at 3 minutes, again, which is the normal men's boxing title championship rounds. And listen, I have always clamored for this. We cannot sit here and say that boxing has no discrepancies. Boxing, you don't play boxing. No, you don't play boxing. But sports don't have a gender. Let me be loud and clear when I say this. Boxing does not have a gender. Make everything equal across the freaking board. Make women's boxing matches for titles 10 3-minute rounds and keep the men's the exact same. There's no anatomy proving that women can't go 10 rounds for 3 minutes. In fact, Alicia Baumgartner just did it 2 weeks ago on the Jake Paul card, 3 weeks ago, rather. It's been done before. Amanda Serrano did the same thing the first time she fought Katie Taylor and the second time. Okay? Now we've done it again. Clarissa Shields, also, same thing. Like, come on. Like, when will the boxing gods really, get it together? I need all these other sanctioning bodies to really step it up. Okay. Boxing has no gender. Sports has no gender. It's quite frustrating. If you want to argue with me, feel free to drop some feedback. We can have a very spirited debate conversation. Okay. And, and before we end it, listen, big shout out to In My Bag Apparel and True Studios. Whether you're in the game, at the gym, or on the couch, In My Bag and True Studios fit the lifestyle. Okay. Make sure you're hitting them up on bigcartel.com, Booksy, the Whatnot app, Facebook, pretty much any social media, and let them know that the MackTruck sent you. Because like I said, it fits the lifestyle, and the lifestyle is sports. But listen, with that, y'all, that's the buzzer on the MackTruck podcast. Like I said, if you rock with it, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and share it with somebody who really watches the game. Like I said, that's all we got today. We'll be back for more. Stay tuned, stay sporty. We'll catch you on the next run.
Ladies and gentlemen,
MackTruck, a.k.a. your worst nightmare.